Wait nang sin to nang sin. Wait nang sin. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here with me today. Housekeeping, make sure you have some water to drink. Get yourself a nice cozy tea if you feel called to have tea or whatever makes you feel safe and warm and at home. And we will get started in a few minutes as we keep allowing folks in. I invite you to put yourselves on the grid view if you're using a device where you can do that, or just scroll through so you can see who you're journeying with today. Make some connections, notice some folks, say hey if you know them, say hey if you don't know them. We do have a chat. If for those of you who are not familiar, you can go to the bottom and press chat, and then type in any questions you have. I do have my partner / admin here with me today. So we will try to do some questions as we move through the material, but we will also save time at the end for more questions, okay? So we're just gonna take some moments of breathing deep, allowing ourselves our presence here, giving ourselves permission to slow down, giving ourselves permission to receive, giving ourselves permission to check in with ourselves. So go ahead and ask you, like, hey, self, how you doing? Let's see what comes up. Have a conversation with yourself. I am drinking green tea with peppermint tea together, which I have found so wonderful. Green tea is naturally anti-inflammatory, slightly bitter and cooling. Really good for any inflammation going on. And then peppermint is one of my all-time favorites. It helps the liver chi move. And then I received a gift of lahua blossom honey from Hawaii. So I put some of that. My partner's from Hawaii, so it feels like really close, and his cousin's name is Lahua. So I love that. All right. Let's make sure you have water. Make sure you have tea or some other comforting drink, chocolate, whatever you feel most called to. And give yourself permission to be here, to be slow, to be observant of yourself, where you're at, what you're feeling. Where do you feel what you're feeling in your body? As we wait for others to join us. We had a couple hundred people sign up, but I feel like we're going to be a pretty small group considering, which I think is great, because that means that we will get some connection time. My mama always says better 10 strong than 100 weak. I love that, because it's like you can do so much with a focused energy. And make sure you have water. I have my computer open over here, so I am going to make sure I can see y'all. Let's see how many of us are here. Okay, hello, beautiful humans. So happy to have you. Got 35. We'll wait just a couple more minutes. Once again, giving yourself permission to find yourself here. Breathe in, tune in. I'm just going to model that. Saying, hey, Timia. Hey, girl. Hey. Feeling a little bit of heaviness in my eyes. Helping myself to move that. And after taking a few breaths, I invite you all to connect with your womb. You can put your hand, find one or both hands on your womb. And give yourself permission to allow your breath to move down deep into the womb space. Hey, womb space. Hey, ovarios. Hello, little ovaries where my eggs are. Hello, womb. So, for those of you who might not be familiar, your womb is located about 1 to 2 finger breadths above the pubic bone and about 1 to 2 finger breadths below the belly button. Different healers might say different things. It's about the size of your fist and it should be centered. Many of us, though, have wombs that are kind of tilted different ways for lots of different reasons. And then our ovaries, if you find your ASIS, your anterior superior iliac crest, and then kind of fall toward the vagina, the ovaries will be like in the dip, right? Right here between the pubic bone and the kind of drawing a triangle between the pistola right here, the ASIS, and the mid center of the pubic bone. It's like, phew, you'll find it, a little dip. And we call, there's a point, a Chinese medicine point there called zi gong shui, which means the palace, the blood palace of seeds. So that's where our ovaries are, okay? So just noticing your ovaries and your womb right here in this lower part, our lower dantian, our fire portal place. Just notice. I'm also going to invite you all to tune into the cervix and the vaginal canal as well as the vulva. Notice any feelings there. Does it feel stuck on one side? Does it feel tingly? Do you feel any burning? Do you feel any dryness? Do you feel wetness? What do you feel down there? Take a moment. So we're going to take a few moments to just really tune into our reproductive organs here, okay? You're all so welcome. Thank you all for being here. Taking a few more moments, tuning into our reproductive organs, asking our breath to nourish our bodies. Where our attention goes, our energy flows, okay? Giving our attention to our womb, to our vulva, to our vaginal canal, to our breath. And right now, I'm going to ask you all to take your attention to your ombligo, your umbilicus. This is the first wound. Okay, this is the what we call the mother wound. So I don't know why, but Spirit said to take attention there. And I want to call in now, ask us all in a good way, in a loving way, to call in our honorable ancestors. If you know their names, the names of your grandmothers, the names of the mothers who brought you here through their bodies, please call them now. I call all of our soul's counsels, our highest, most true selves. I call all of our angels, winged beings. I call our cosmic relatives. I call our animal allies. I call the powers of the sun and the rain. I call the powers of our swords of truth, of protection. I call upon divine beauty, divine love as our protective shield today for ourselves and others as we move through this work of healing. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for bringing your pain, for bringing your progress, for bringing your beauty, for bringing your love, for bringing your ugly. Thank you for showing up here today for healing. I honor each and every one of you. Thank you. Ooh, all right. So what I'm going to invite you all to do, I don't know how much you understand about the wombs. I'm sure we're all in different places. My course little class is meant to give us a broad overview of a bunch of stuff from my perspective as a Chinese medicine doctor, as a lineage practitioner of hands-on healing, as a practitioner of curanderismo, that there's so much stuff that we could know that we just don't know that is pretty much ripped away by colonialism, right? I'm going to move a little closer to you. So this is meant to be an overview of all of that. Some of you might have seen, have seen for a while on Instagram, there's pictures of vocal cords going around that look very much like a cervix opening. So there's a deep connection, not only physiologically and anatomically, between our throats and our fountains, our beautiful fountains of life-giving essence, or what's called the vagina. I'm trying to find a better way to call the vagina. I like concha. Yoni is also good, but I feel a little culturally appropriative with that. In the whole yoga world, that's just, my own ego hangups. But vagina actually comes from a Germanic word that means sheath, as if our parts were only nameable based on how they worked with a penis. So I am like not feeling the most comfortable saying vagina. That's what I say most often though, because it's the anatomically correct term. So I invite y'all to use your own traditional names. Concha means shell, and it refers to our female body reproductive organs. I like that. Or yoni. Anyway, not only anatomically is it connected by its visual, but also when I've worked with patients in my clinic as a Chinese medicine physician, oftentimes, or rather all the time, my connection, our connection to our wombs and ovaries hormonally, if people are having hormonal issues that are causing menstrual stuff, oftentimes they are generally also having thyroid hormonal issues. So I haven't met any patients on thyroid medication who did not also have womb stuff going on. There's a really close connection to our, and now to use yogic terms, our Svadhisthana chakra, or our creative center, and our Visuddha chakra, or the purification center. And when I've seen it in clinic, when humans with wombs and conchas have come to me asking about their menstrual stuff, one, there's so much stuff caught up in our wombs and our conchas because of ancestral stuff, because of our own sexual histories, because of our thought patterns, which we'll get into. There's just so much in there. But two, based on the history of being a female-bodied human, a womb holder in this society, in patriarchal society, that holding generally also comes with an underlying inability to express, okay? Whether that's from some ancestral grandmothers being silenced through violence, being raped and silenced, etc. Or if that's just from, in my own experience, being a very, at times, abrasive, loud, excitable, female-bodied human, being like my grandma used to tell me, "Estate quieta," like be a lady, be quiet, or maybe just tone it down a bit. I got told a lot when I was a kid. So there's this very strong connection between being a womb holder and being silenced. So I see that clinically, that show up in hormonal issues of the thyroid and the ovaries. Okay. So because that is true, to begin, for all of us, I invite you to either stand or like sit kind of with your legs wide. Like right now, I'm like squatting on my little, I don't know if y'all could tell, sorry, on my little stool right here. Get comfy, really feel your parts, really feel these genitals and these womb places. And I'm going to ask us all, you're all muted. You can't see each other unless you're looking, to take 5 deep breaths. And on the exit of that deep breath, well, one, the deep breath is going to come all the way down so that you're filling up all of this. And then on the exit, we're going to voice. Okay. We're going to connect this throat and this womb space. Okay. So it's going to look like this. Or however your voice makes it look. Nobody can hear you. Go for it. 5 times. Deep breath in, release with sound now. And you need a few more. Don't be scared of your own voice, loves. Okay. Whenever you're ready, you can kind of release that. And now I'm going to ask you, wherever you're at, to just start wiggling. I'm not sure why this is related, but it feels related because we get so stuck, right? So I'm going to invite you to wiggle, stand up if you feel called, to wiggle every single part of your body, okay? So you're going to ground your feet, and you're going to wiggle your womb, you're going to wiggle your ovaries, you're going to wiggle your underarms, you're going to wiggle your wrists, you're going to wiggle the little muscles in between your neck, you're going to wiggle your eyelids. You're imagining wiggling where you can't feel wiggling all the same. So what we're doing is we're giving ourselves permission to move old, stagnant stuff in our bodies, okay? Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Let yourself have fun with this. Let yourself be a kid with this. Let yourself be a crazy, wild, banshee person. Anything anybody ever told you that insulted you, be that. Right now, anything everybody told you that made you feel proud, be that right now, and channel it into movement. Wiggle your head. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And if you feel like you're in a place where you can't do this right now, I honor and respect that. Find a place when you have the moment and do this, okay? Wiggle your wrists, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your hair. I invite you to play with different places of wiggling back and forth, tilting. Let it all hang out. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Let it out, let it in. Hold space for yourself to move, especially the shit you can't see. You're going to keep going. Some of you might feel some stuff coming up. Whatever that is, let it. All right? You came here today for a reason. When you feel called to slow down, allow yourself to. Keep your feet planted. Take a deep breath. Now we're going to imagine any drudged up sick chi, anything that is not serving you, any old energies of anyone who is not you, including your children, including your parents, including your lovers. Slowly releases out through your hands, releases out through your feet, releases out through your perineum, goes down into the earth where it can be reabsorbed, composted, for the continual nourishment of our species here on earth. So anything that is not good for you is good for the earth to recreate nourishment here. We're going to spend a few breaths allowing all the drudged up to settle down into the earth. If you feel called to use your voice here, you may. If you feel like you're not done wiggling, keep wiggling. If you feel like you need to lay down and let the earth take over the job of releasing and receiving whatever it is you can't have anymore, good, go for it. I call upon the energy of the most divine mother archetype to help hold us today, to receive anything we no longer need, and to remind us how to nourish ourselves. Oh, oh, ha. All right. Take a moment, take some deep breaths, drink some water. Drink a lot of water, actually. And if you need to refill your water, go refill your water. Okay. Now we're going to go directly into an activity to connect in pairs, probably someone you don't know. So just a disclaimer right now. Prepare yourself for that. The question we're going to ask is going to be quick. You're each going to get 2 minutes to tell the story of your first period, anything that comes up. So get ready, and we are going to share with one another for 4 minutes, 2 minutes each. If y'all are tuning in together as homies, then you're just going to have to go fast. Okay. And there might be 3 or 4 of you in a group, and that's totally okay. First thing is to share the thing that comes up immediately for you. Okay. The fastest, most present story and the details in your intuition as you share. All right. So Tech, can we please go into 2 people groups?
Can you hear me? Okay. Hello? Hi. Oh, 1 second. I can see you now.
Okay, hi, I'm Christina. I was not expected to be recorded.
I know. I'm like all red and stuff, so don't worry. I'm Rachel. Nice to meet you.
I'm Christina. Nice to meet you. It's so spontaneous that I was here. I just heard about it yesterday on Instagram. I was like, let me go.
I know. I'm like, I need some community with some education on Moontime stuff. I'm here for it.
Yes, I'm reading this book right now too, Sacred Woman, and it's all about the womb. And I'm like, let me do something more interactive.
Yeah. That's great. Did you want to share your experience, your first bleeding experience?
Well, I don't remember a lot about it. I was in elementary school, so it was like I was really young. So I just remember like being in elementary school and getting my period and just kind of being confused about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any. This is one thing that I have over the course of time, like in terms of grieving colonialism and stuff. I wish that there would have been like more, that there would have been more community held and there would have been more like ritual or something. But it was
Right.
just very kind of silent. It was just like I told my mom and she, made sure that I had pads and stuff like that. And that was it.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. When I got mine, it was at a basketball tournament and I was like 13 and I didn't tell anybody. So I was like playing basketball with like some toilet paper just like there, and like I remember telling
Oh,
my cousin was there like at the tournament, and I told her about it later, and she was like, why didn't you tell me? Like I would have helped you. But I was just like, there's such that like taboo around bleeding that it's just like to tell your dad like, hey, I just got my period. Like I don't know, that was always something weird and like uncomfortable. But now not so much. Now I'm just like super vocal about it, and I'm like, it's my time, I'm bleeding. So
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, just growing up in this society, and it's like there's a taboo about it, but there's also so much silence too.
Mhm.
It's like there's like this negative stigma, and then there's also this like people not really doing anything about it kind of thing. And I I really feel, called to in my life, revitalize. Like, I would like to do more ritual when I'm on my moon time, or do more things that just connect me to my womb. Because right
Yeah,
now, this is also why I'm in this class. I just don't like to be in my body. It's so uncomfortable.
right. I've
It's
tried
like, I hate being on my period.
yeah, I've tried painting with my menstrual blood, and I actually highly
Yeah.
recommend it. It's kind of like weird to think about, but like I I don't know. I enjoyed doing it. It was a nice way to like connect with myself and like my womb, and like I don't know. I recommend if you're looking to like connect with yourself during your cycle, give it a shot.
Yeah, I've heard somebody has told me that before, actually, that they did that. That would be nice. I like offer my blood to like the earth. That
Yeah.
feels really good. I live by a river. Sometimes I do that. That feels really nice to me as well. I just like I also want to
Okay, we're unmuted. Can y'all hear me? Can I see some thumbs up
Yeah,
if y'all
one
can hear me?
second. It's being
Órale.
silly.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Thank you, my love. Okay, so go ahead and write in the chat some themes that came up for you between you and your partner on the story of your first period. And I also would like you to express how that felt for you. What feelings did you have telling the story of your first period? Okay, go ahead and bring the chat up. We've got lonely, having to figure things out alone. Secrecy, embarrassing, celebration. I love that. Embarrassment, keeping quiet. I wish it had been more sacred, spiritual space holding. Mm-hmm. Now go ahead and just read all of each other's stuff. Happy, painful, fear and worry. Someone said I had a darling connection with my mom. I thought it was beautiful. I love that. I love this. Thought I peed my pants / shame. Scary. Feeling alone. Dad awkwardness. Okay. Janelle says, I felt a little shy, but also realized that my experience was special and that I was told about my period and that my sister also got her first period the same week. Oh, that's so cool. So I had someone to go through it with. I wasn't exactly sure that was what was happening. Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay. Yes. Felt very loved by my mother. Good. Oh, it's really nice to see that a lot of you had good experiences. I feel like our generations, the more recent humans on this plane are getting it a lot easier as far as societally. So myself, my mom had the period talk with me about, I want to say 2 weeks or a month before I started. I got my period at 11, which I think was kind of early. But she like could tell and she knew. And the reason why she was so proactive about talking to me about it is because when she started her moon, she had no idea about it at all. She thought she was dying and she was like praying and crying in the bathroom. And when my grandmother found her, she didn't say anything. She just gave her a pad. And there was no talk. There was nothing. And she had such bad periods and such bad cramps until she had a hysterectomy when I was 9. But there was still like no discussion of it. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to go ahead and go into the lecture now and just knowing, and we're going to start. I want you all to know that as a practitioner who works in the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical realms of well-being, I don't really differentiate them. They are different clearly, but the way they bleed into each other is so, it's just all pervading literally because we cannot separate them, which is one of my biggest things as a practitioner of what I do. So I'm going to kind of talk about them interchangeably, but I do have a little flow sheet that will kind of help me stay on track, but just know that they're all going to consistently inform each other. So the reason why I had you all tell your first period stories is because of our belief system. So that's going to go under mental. Okay, so under this category, I have belief systems, negative self-talk, application, and societal expectations. Okay, so belief systems. So many of us, upon growing up, have been one thing. Belief systems can be conscious and unconscious, and that is huge to understand when we are trying to heal ourselves. Okay. So for instance, I always use myself as an example because I'm the only one who lives in my body. And that's why whatever I say, I invite you all to look at yourselves as your own example and know that every single human being is different. And everybody else's information and offering is going to give us a glimpse into ourselves, but never is going to be exactly the same. Okay. So for myself, when I began having sexual relations, I was raised Catholic, but I was also raised with this indigenous underpinning. But there was so much shame in this Catholicism that was put on us that when I lost my virginity, even if you look in the nomenclature, if you look at what is it called, vocabulary, the language around it, right? Lost your virginity. That therein is a belief system just in the language. Okay, that there's this precious sacred thing that once you lose it, you are no more. So when I lost my virginity, when I chose to start having sexual relations as an 18-year-old, the summer before I went to college, I literally believed that no man was ever going to love me again. Because what I had been told was that my virginity is all men want, and that once I give it up, I am less valuable, even if it wasn't in those words. Okay. So other things I contended with, and maybe y'all can relate growing up, is specifically in being a bleeder is, that's nasty. Don't talk about that. Get away from me with that. I got reprimanded as, I think, also an 18-year-old for talking back to my uncle because he thought I was hungover, but I was having cramps. And he's like, sounds like someone's hungover to me. I was like, sounds like someone has her period to me. And my mother and my auntie both jumped on my ass about saying the word period to my uncle, a man who has 3 children, right? Including a girl. So it was very, there was this internalized, it's not okay to be going through what I'm going through. Okay. Now, according to consciousness-based medicine, for those of you who don't know, I'm also a body talk practitioner, which is a system of medicine that uses applied kinesiology to determine the priority for healing. Y'all can look on International Body Talk Association. It's a really cool form of healing based in consciousness-based medicine. According to consciousness-based medicine, there is no difference. The body does not differentiate between actual toxicity in our body, aka sugar or preservatives or drugs, right? And toxic thoughts. So the way we think about ourselves is literally physiologically affecting us the exact same way a toxic food or substance would affect us. That's why consciousness-based medicine can be so powerful in healing chronic illnesses, okay? So the self-talk, I'm disgusting, I stink, all of these things that we have learned, mostly from patriarchy, about our menstruation, also affect our menstruation. I have a story. When I was studying Chinese medicine, one of the things I learned from a Buddhist practitioner was that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Okay, so y'all can go and look up Buddhism and the 4 truths of Buddhism to unpack that. But I found that in times when I have had menstrual stuff, and this is also physiological, and we'll talk a little bit when we get to organs, we'll talk about the holding that happens when we resist, that disallows the release, right? And when we are fighting or in resistance of our pain, it causes us more suffering. So for myself, in remembering that at times when I've had pain, and I say suffering is optional, literally accepting the pain makes it opens the flow so that it moves. And in Chinese medicine, there is a basic tenet. In Chinese medicine, there is a basic tenet: where there is pain, there is no flow. Where there is flow, there is no pain. Tech, I need a phone charger, please. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Where there is pain, there is no flow. Where there is flow, there is no pain. So when we are disallowing experiences through our bodies, we are also holding and we are inhibiting flow. So the definition of health that I learned in Chinese medicine school is the uninhibited flow of qi and blood. Qi being oxygen, qi being life essence energy, and blood being the yin component of that which follows the qi. Okay, we have a comment. 1,000,000%. I can personally attest to that. I used to have debilitating periods, and once I changed my attitude towards it, it was so much more tolerable. Thank you for saying that. And to mirror that, literally as soon as I go, okay, this pain is here, deep breath, whew, all right. That's also how I got through childbirth. When the pain would come, when I was like, oh, because it was really painful. Some humans are way more prepared to deal with that. But for me, when I was in my contractions, when I would allow the pain is when I would move through it and it would be over soon.
Sorry, checking. You're good.
Thank you. Okay, So that is one. Belief systems are huge. Now, these belief systems we have to unpack because most of the time we don't even know we have them. Okay. That's just something like you don't talk about that around your uncle, right? If your parents tell you that your whole time, they're not saying be ashamed of your period. They are modeling that that is not something that we are open to holding space for expressing, for asking help about, for celebrating, right? So that's the first part of this is our mentality. Our mind is so very strong. The word mantra means mind tool. What we tell ourselves matters. They don't call it spelling for no reason. Okay, it is literally casting spells. And our words are so powerful. Something I learned from one of my maestras de curanderismo is saying your name. So when we do a soul retrieval, some of you might not be familiar with that. That's okay. You can look it up. One of the things that's most powerful, and I have at least like, I want to say like 70% of my patients, I'll have them say their full name during our sessions because your name is connected to your nervous system. Okay. When somebody says your name, your whole beingness goes, huh? So imagine if you're telling yourself by your name or someone is saying your name and saying something really messed up to you, that is imprinting on every single one of your cells. Okay, so when we are doing this work in our belief system realm, we want to be really using the power of our names. So saying, Euthymia, you are healing. Okay, I am healing. And it sounds woo-woo, but if you look at the research about how words affect us, or if you look at one of the things I love to talk about is Masaru Emoto, who is a Japanese scientist who did the water experiments. You can also look him up, Emoto, Emoto. He did experiments with water where he had canisters of water and he put names on them or words on them that say like, thank you, I love you, you suck, die, all different kinds of things. And then he looked at the water crystals under the microscopes and you can see the water crystals structures shifting appropriately to the energetic of the word put on there. Our bodies are made of about 80% water. So the words we speak to ourselves are so powerful. So I invite you all, if you do have pain anywhere in your body, to speak your name and speak healing onto that name. Speak healing onto your body. Hold it with compassion. Say, I love you. Okay, that can get really hokey. I get it. It sounds like woo, woo, blah, blah. I know, pero I promise you, there's reasons why we do this shit. Okay. All right. So belief systems, application. So it's one thing to learn a thing. It's another thing when you are triggered and your mind starts storying to apply that thing. And speaking from personal experience as a human being who's been on a healing path for near half my life, when I get triggered, I still go down my rabbit hole of caca, right? So it takes us time to be able to see when we're triggered, to see when we're in pain, to see when we can't see, to see when we're disempowered for seeing, when we're so in pain. How do I apply my tools? So that's a mental, it's a cognitive shift to seeing where you're at and then saying, oh, wait, I have tools for that. Okay. And doing that little push of will or whatever it takes to offer those tools. Okay. And then societal expectations. This also falls under mental because how many of us won't call in to our jobs if we're having period stuff, or even if we're not having period stuff? The whole point is that, or not the whole point, but if you've read The Red Tent, which I highly recommend, even though now that I've read it while I'm older, I'm like, I don't know, some of that stuff's questionable, but still a good read. We should be celebrating, we should be nesting, we should be connecting with one another while we are menstruating. That's why the person who said that they started at the same time with their sister, because back in the day, back in the day, we would all menstruate together. And that red tent is a biblical story, but one of my aunties who's in Dene Nation told me that before colonialism, when they would sleep in the hogan, the bleeding folk would sleep together with their heads toward the middle. And when they would sleep together with their heads toward the middle, they would dream together. And in that dream place, we would dream of where the water was, where the berries are, where the hunting was. And then the bleeding humans would, after their ceremony of bleeding together, would then be able to tell the hunters where to find the meat and the gatherers where to find the berries and the whole people where to find the water. Because as indigenous folks, as earth-based folks, and we're all, if you go back far enough, are earth-based folks with indigenous connections to our mother earth, our divine sacred mother, we understand that our connection as bleeding people is very, very open. It's a direct connection from the cosmos, if you will, to the earth. Okay, the bleeding helps us connect to life and death. And that's why the birth portal is so, so, so very sacred and so, so very important. And our bleeding, if you look at the power of being able to dream together with other bleeding folks, of course, that is a danger to the patriarchy, right? So this is also why there has been a direct and calculated attack on the beauty and culture of bleeding, which it has been internalized into our wombs as violence, right? And there's a whole lot we could talk about with colonial violence and rape, etc., and slavery and all of the things that have gotten us to these places in our womb spaces. I could talk about this forever. So anyway, societal expectations. When our society has been built on the calculated subjugation of bleeding folks, of course, we are going to subjugate ourselves in a way that gives us a safety from societal attack. All right. So like, we don't talk about our period. We just throw a pill down. We don't, there's so much cover and hide so that you are not the object of attack. I don't know a better word than that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move on. Mental. So once again, these, like, I would definitely also put the mental in the spiritual, as well as the physical, because of societal. There's another one I just thought of. Hold on. Loads. All right. So in order to go over the emotional is wind. Haha. Okay, let's go over spiritual time. Okay. Ancestral. So I always put ancestral in spiritual because, again, it's all connected. It's also physical because we have this epigenetic markers in our DNA, right? The ancestral is the spiritual because I would only be able to describe it to y'all as the work I do, but let me put it this way, and I'll tell you a story of when I met Comadre Panquetzani. We attended together a peyote ceremony with my tia, who's a peyotera in the Central Valley in Califaslan. And we did work on each other before the meeting. And it's her story to tell what happened when I worked on her. That was fun. But when she worked on me, because she's a Indigimama, right? And she's a very powerful healer. It's not just one-dimensional, like, physical work, even though she's a master at that. But when we were in the healing portal together, my eyes were closed, and all of the sudden, I saw all of my foremothers surrounding me while her hands were on my womb. And it was the craziest feeling to see them, like, and they were like layered. It wasn't just like 5 of them, right? It was like from generations back. And she said, "What do they have to say?" And it wasn't even my voice, but what my answer was, and this is Spirit said share, was like a scream, yell, cry. They were all raped. And I just started wailing while she held space for me to screech out the ancestral imprint of rape from my womb. Super heavy. Now, that's the kind of work that ancestral womb practitioners will do on you. There's been similar stories like that. I worked on one woman once who afterwards she's like, I feel like I just gave birth. And that's a whole other story that it was really powerful that I don't necessarily want to go into right now. But spiritual is ancestral because we have to go into the unseen realms to unwind whatever was going on. And all we need, a lot of people like to demystify the spiritual work. It is literally about calling on the unseen, calling on the great, like we did at the beginning of this, to help the healing. Okay. So here I have rape with no consent, colonialism. So I need y'all to know that whatever is going on in our wombs, I have never met a single human being who did not have ancestral trauma in their womb. Okay, whether it's their mothers or their grandmothers. Also, for all of you to know, in case you didn't, we are all in our maternal grandmother's wombs because we are developed in utero as eggs in the in utero fetus's ovaries. So any stuff that our maternal grandmothers went through during gestation or at all, whatever they're carrying with them, we literally physiologically, because of how we grow inside of them while our mothers are inside of them, we literally have their stuff with us. Okay. So it's necessary for us to recognize when we are doing this deep kind of healing, the kinds of stuff that we have inside of our wombs. Now, I'm telling you this because we actually have the power to affect it. So one of my close people recently went through a divorce and has, it's been a couple years, and then has fallen in love again. And while they were like, they're very in tune, and they're like, oh my gosh, I think I need to get this person off of me energetically, and decided to do their own ceremony to release that. And all it looked like for this person, they didn't have like a maestro or maestra, curandero, curandera to help them. They just literally intended it, closed their eyes, put their hands on their womb and said, person out. And like just went like this and helped facilitate the energetic, spiritual, etc. movement of this person out of their womb. The very next day, this person calls 3 or 4 or 5 times. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it that we've moved stuff out of somebody's womb, especially as related to a relationship that is no longer serving them. And that person is all up on them energetically the next couple of days because the way unseen energetics work is you can feel that. So just know that you guys have the power to affect some of this stuff by yourself, but you also can find helpers in the energetic spiritual realm or even healer realm. There are sobadoras. I know somebody in my community who does womb Reiki specifically. You can touch yourself. Indigimama has meditations. If you take her Matriz Concha class, there's so many different ways that you can help facilitate a spiritual cleanse of your heart, of your whole self, really. Okay. All right. Spiritual boundaries. So because we have these ancestral ties, because so many of our ancestors were taken into servitude, were ripped away from their children because of white supremacy, and the list goes on and on. There is oftentimes we have imprints in our DNA of being unable to say no. Okay, so how many of us womb holders, especially womb holders on Turtle Island that are by POC, are just like, here, 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 take it, take it, take it. It's my last this. Go ahead, have it. Go ahead, have it. There's no no, because before in our ancestry, a no meant death. A no meant being beaten. A no meant being raped. So our boundaries are very non-intact. I've seen this in the birthing realm a lot, especially because obstetrics as it's practiced today is still non-consensual rape and white supremacy in so many cases. And these people will just come in and putting their fingers everywhere in you without asking. Okay. And then taking your babies away. And I've seen the babies, there's no consent with the babies either. Babies screaming, babies crying. And they're not giving their consent either. So a lot of our boundaries are compounded over generations of being taken into the medical industrial complex and the history of white supremacy in America. So our boundaries are really hard to hold, and we're not sure how. Now that doesn't just translate to our physical boundaries of here, 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 here. Somebody calls, you don't really want to talk to them, but you answer anyway, etc. But also our spiritual boundaries, especially with those who we share our bodies with who we have sex with. I've seen so many times, I don't even know how best to say it, that there's a hook, like womb holders get hooks put in them by lovers who they might not even be lovers with yet, but that lover is still siphoning energy from this hearth, okay, from this womb space. And there's still offering happening there. So a way I recommend we work on our boundaries is first do the like releasing of stuff that's not yours. And that might take, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times. It might be lifelong. Because oftentimes we're not just healing from our own lifetime, we're healing from our ancestors' lifetimes as well. But with boundary work, when we become aware of our own body, our own sense of self, our own space, when we keep connecting to who we are and how we are and where we are, then we will unconsciously begin to understand where we end and somebody else's energy begins. He said I have 5 more minutes.
Until the Q&A.
Until the Q&A. Damn. Okay. Boundaries are huge when it comes to how other folks affect our wombs. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. I had a lover who I knew was bad for me, but there was a dark part of me who needed that. And it was there's a whole reason why I went through that. But this lover, I had already been pain-free for 15 years. And then I got this lover and I started having menstrual cramps again because my womb was like, bitch, no. I wasn't listening. I was stigmatized. Yeah, my body was not having it. So when it comes to boundaries, our wombs are very clear about what is good for us and what is not good for us. Okay. The replay will be available, y'all. I'm sorry this is taking so long. I have a lot to say. So that's just something to know about. Okay, moon times. Moon times meaning our moon should move with the moon. Okay, so that's also spiritual, is being able to connect to the rhythms of the Tao, the rhythms of nature, to also understand how your body works. All right, so that's also spiritual. All right, so I'm gonna breeze through these last few. 2, emotional and physical. Emotional. Our organs' greatest contributions to our well-being is how they directly affect our organs. So our organs and our emotions are put together. I'm sorry I wasn't clear about how I said that. Let me rephrase. the biggest cause of dis-ease or illness in the body is our emotions based on how they affect our organs. So according to all indigenous traditional medicines, our organs are directly affected by our emotions, okay? So as a practitioner, specifically in Chinese medicine and my integrative approach, when women, or excuse me, womb holders, when bleeders come in to my clinic, the biggest things I see are repressed anger, repressed creativity, and deep grief in how our wombs are affected. So the repressed anger, the kidney, or excuse me, the liver is responsible for anger, and the liver is also responsible for the smooth flow of qi and holding of blood, the storing of blood. So when our liver is not allowed to express its anger, be a lady, be nice, don't yell at your dad, etc. It's and when I've seen this most is specifically in womb holders who are in relationships with macho humans who disallow their true full expression of who they are, what their heart song is as a human. Okay, I could go into a lot more depth on specific organs and how they affect our blood, but you could look up the 5 emotions in Chinese medicine and see like what the emotions do to the blood. But for this class's purpose, what I'll say from my lens as a practitioner is that where there is pain, there is no flow. Where there is flow, there is no pain. We have to gift ourselves the flow of our truth. Again, that connection between our womb and our throat. If we want to sing, we need to sing. If we want to yell, we need to yell. If we want to cry, we need to cry. If we want to dance, if we want to leave that relationship, we need to. Because when we are not in our truth, we are not in our flow. And when we are not in our flow, neither is our blood. Okay? One clinical story, I had a young woman patient who there was so much stuff. We did all kinds of clearing with her mother's energy around her because I can't go into it, but we worked like 2 or 3 months together. We changed her diet. We did the rubbing. We did the points. We did so many things. And she used to have like 4 days of debilitating pain. And then it went to like 4 hours, which is a really big progress, right? Then after a couple months, we hadn't seen each other. And she called me one day, like sobbing, crying, angry. And her pain was all the way spiked back up. And she started telling me this story about her mother. I was literally on the phone. And what came through my mouth was, name, it is okay to be mad at your mom. And in that moment, she goes, all my pain just stopped. So her inability to express her feeling of not having permission to express anger at her mother was literally causing her pain. And in a second of her giving permission to be angry, her pain literally stopped. That was the most drastic of that I'd seen in my time as a practitioner in a moment like that, but it happened. And that is not the only time something like that has happened. Okay, so our emotions are super powerful when it comes to our menstrual flow, and we have to give ourselves the permission to flow with our emotions so our blood will also flow. Okay. Emotional, there's so much more. Last thing I'll go through, physical. There's a lot here, guys. You see, that's the longest, okay? So I'm going to start with clothes. Cold constricts, okay? So when I first started mentoring with my Chinese medicine mentor when I was 18, he told me to stop wearing midriff clothes because the kidneys are right here and your kidneys store your essence. And when your kidneys are cold, they cause cold in your body. Cold is like the weather is also causes dis-ease. And so the weather is a pathogen. So cold is a pathogen that can enter your body. Now, my indigenous grandmother was always telling me similar things like you don't bathe when you're on your period. If your feet get wet, you have to wet your head. You need to stay warm, like cover yourself well. And she would tell me the story of one of her primas growing up, her cousins dying of cold in the womb. that's a whole other story. And since I've been studying with different indigenous practitioners, including Rayan from Postpartum Healing Lodge and Indígena Mama, and Chinese medicine across the board, it's the same. Don't let cold enter your womb. So you'll see a lot of people in indigenous communities will be like, put on your socks. In China, they won't walk around the house without house shoes, okay? Because you can't, your cold can enter through your feet and move through the meridians and enter your womb. So dressing to the seasons is huge. Now I challenge you all next time you're on your menstrual cycle to note if you're cold or not, and note if warming yourself up helps your pain. I promise you it will, all right? Organs, meridians. Okay, touch medicine. Touch medicine is highly undervalued in this society on purpose, okay? When we touch ourselves, we bring warmth, we bring movement, we bring attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, okay? So I highly recommend all y'all to be connected in a touch way to your matriz. Okay, now I have some stuff here that I can show you real fast that I made. Medicine is extremely accessible. I got some olive oil from a comadre whose family made it. Not everybody gets that, but you could buy olive oil from anywhere and buy some herbs, organic herbs from anywhere, and put them in a jar. This is manzanilla or chamomile in olive oil. It is a sedative. It is an analgesic. And ever since I was a kid, my grandma was like, if you have cramps, drink manzanilla tea. So this is topical oil that once this is done after a month, I will strain it and I will rub it whenever I want on my belly and other people's bellies. And I'm not going to go over the actions of everyone, but all of these oils are specific to use for the womb for different needs, okay? This is rosebuds in olive oil, yarrow, Simpasuchi. This is marigolds. This is lavender. Super great for pain. Smells wonderful. And this one is calendula. Okay, so medicine is very accessible. Even if you don't have herbs, just get some oil and rub yourself. Oh, hell yeah, I recommend burning moxa. I wasn't going to go into that right now, though, because I think that y'all need a practitioner to burn moxa, or somebody who can help you. I don't have enough time to go into that. If patients come see me though, and they have specific things, I will recommend moxa. FYI, in Japan, there are entire schools that are like 4-year universities on how to use moxa for tonifying, for dispersing, for pain relief, for all different kinds of things. Yeah, grapeseed oil works too. Grapeseed oil, I recently made a pomada and I use grapeseed oil because it's good for the skin, but it also burns at a high heat. And I put the, in a double boiler, I put the hierbitas in a glass with the oil and then put it in a pot with water. And I put that on for like 5 hours. I don't know what like other herbalists will, how they'll tell you to do that. That was like how I felt, how long I felt to do it. There's also a way you can do the oil on a comal for like 20 minutes because the heat is higher, but you have to keep it moving. And then you can put the oil on warm, and that's like for postpartum care. Panketsani does a whole thing on that. If you guys take her class, worth it. Okay, water. Make sure you're drinking enough water, y'all. We need water for our blood to move, and every single one of us is dehydrated. Drink water. One of my curanderas prescribed to me 96 ounces of water a day, and I weigh like 105 pounds. Okay, so about your body weight in ounces is how much water you should drink for all of your body functions. And personally, I notice I'm dehydrated because my vagina starts itching. That's just real for me. So I always need to drink water. Like, your sexual health is so intertwined with how much water you drink. We're made of water, right? Okay. Movement. Where there's pain, there's no flow. Where there's flow, there's no pain. Not only that touch medicine, but y'all need to be moving your bodies. We were made to move. We're hunter and gatherers. We weren't made to like sit in front of a screen all day. Okay. So dancing is great. Move with joy, not exercise. Okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. What brings you yeses when you move. That's why sex is so good. That's why orgasms are so good. Okay. And okay, diet. So I'm gonna do fast. When I have seen dietary stuff involved, if we've done all the spiritual stuff, we also do the physical stuff, and that is phlegm foods being overly done in America. Phlegm foods include dairy, hydrogenated oils, bread, pasta, cheese and milk, which is dairy, sugar, huge when it comes to PCOS, when it comes to inflammatory illnesses of the matriz y concha. Okay, phlegm foods are a huge problem. Now, I've seen in America, there's usually an overconsumption of phlegm foods and an underconsumption of high density nutritious foods with lots of minerals in there. Okay, so you want to be eating warming, nutrient dense foods like beets, like cauliflower greens, col rizada, kale, beets are huge, camote, sweet potatoes, okay? There are a lot of associations with different organs, according to Chinese medicine, that you could use diet for. There was a question about cold foods, cold and raw foods can cause dampness, phlegm. Yes, that is true. We don't want to eat a lot of cold foods when we're on our moon time. If you go to China, most everything's cooked and they garnish with cold foods, cold and raw foods, so that it's not an overabundance. Like a raw diet, I've never seen people do well with a raw diet. They usually have huge digestive issues that include dampness, for those of you familiar with Chinese medicine. But if you are going to do that, do it in a tropical climate where it's warm enough, like definitely not in winter. Okay. So what I usually see is diet high in phlegm and low in blood and nourishing foods. So the other big one is what we call blood deficiency. And this is big in both postpartum, but also like after your period. If you're losing a lot of blood, you need to be replenishing that blood. And a lot of times our blood's moving slow and dark, etc., because we don't have enough blood building foods to help the smooth flow of our blood bodies. That mixed with an overabundance of phlegm, then not only is our blood weak to move, but we're having all of these blocks of sticky heaviness that is disallowing the smooth flow of blood. Okay, an overabundance of fatty red meat, yes, can cause phlegm. If you read Omnivore's Dilemma, or rather Food Rules by Michael Pollan, you want to eat the amount of meat as your teeth indicate. We are omnivores and we have 4 canine teeth out of 32 teeth. That means about 1/8 of our diet only should be meat. Okay. Okay, so goji berries can be well for blood building, but goji berries, if used in excess, can also be quite cloying, as in they can cause phlegm. They're like also sticky and heavy. So I highly recommend y'all go to a Chinese medicine doctor or a traditional medicine doctor, somebody who can help you, somebody who's an herbalist with experience, who can look at your presentation and say, oh, you need some of this, but not as much of this. Let me give you a modified herbal formula that's specifically tailored to you. Okay. I do believe we can be self-healers and we can help ourselves heal by being observers of our patterning and noticing, oh, when I eat more bread, my menses is more slow and sticky to start. Oh, when I drink too much alcohol, my menstruation comes in strong and like claws me. Okay. You start noticing that, but you have to be diligent in your research, because a little information can be very dangerous. Okay. Be really present with your observation of yourself and ask for help when you need it, because we all need help. Okay. All right, y'all. So that's my brief. I hope I gave you a lot to think about today. I want to invite you all. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because our menstruation is so personal, because there's so much to deal with, because the society does not hold space for the way the holistic healing moves. I am going to start a Moontime membership. So this is going to be an ongoing monthly membership to Moontime healing spaces with me in my community, where you get recipes, you get healing recipes, you get point recipes, you get one-on-one, like, hey, I have this symptom. How can I, like me one-on-one to help you personally. So that is going to start in May, but the wait list is open now. So you can go to my website and you can put your name down for the wait list for that Moontime Medicine cohort. That will be an ongoing collective healing circle for our menstruation healing. That we can then move out into help others healing. My Giving Life course is still live. Please, if you feel called to birth work, especially if you are a bi-POC human, if you believe in birth justice, if you believe in rehumanizing birth, come to my birthing course. There is a discount code for you. It's MASTER. Okay, the discount code for you today. If you will buy that today for the next 24 hours, you get a 30% discount. The code is MASTER for Giving Life. It is a wonderful portal of healing our own birthing trauma and helping others completely avoid birthing trauma. I mean, I don't know if completely. I had a lot of birth trauma, even though I had a natural home birth. Everybody gets what they need out of the birthing portal, but if we heal birth, we heal the earth. That is my stance on that. If you want a one-on-one appointment with me, you can find that in my link tree. And that is so we can get more personal about your own healing. I am starting to open up my in-person clinic again to select few individuals. So if you're interested in that, please email guide@musemedicina.com with any questions at all. There are a select amount of scholarships available for the birthing course. Please email guide@musemedicina.com to get connected to that. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry I went over. Now we will be available for a few minutes of question and answer. And this recording will be sent out for free afterwards to all of you who signed up. Okay.
First question is,
First question.
what do you think about menstrual cups?
Oh, no. So I personally was taught through all of my various teachers that our menstruation is supposed to go out. Okay, so toxic shock syndrome has to do with like specifically in tampons. If our menstruate gets exposed to different bacteria that can grow, dampness creates a place for bacteria to kick in. Okay, damp heat causes toxicity. All right, so if we are not releasing, there's a potential that we could get, like, it could curdle, that like there's the word kind of like mal aire, when there's no aire, like when there's it's anaerobic bacteria to build. Okay, but that's not even the biggest reason. What Panketsani taught me is that a cup has gentle suction on it. So over time, it can lead to matriz caída, as in like pulling down your matriz. So I only advocate for free bleeding or pads. I actually have menstrual pads that my mom bought me from a danzante comadre when I was 13. I'm 37. I was like, maybe I should get some new ones, but they're like towel material that I've had since I was a kid to catch my blood. And I'm sure there was a lot of questions from earlier. You can go back and look at them. Yeah, go ahead.
But here's the newest one. I have been on birth control for over 10 years. In the last 3 years, she's been on an IUD. I'm getting it taken out next week and have horrible, horrible cramps when not on birth control. What do you know about endometriosis?
Oh, man. Everything that we talked about here adds to endometriosis. I know that there's an entire hormonal context for endometriosis that I think is over estrogen. So that has a lot to do with our diet. Eating an anti-inflammatory diet is always going to help with any kind of menstrual issues. Endometriosis is like scar tissue outside of the womb. It's womb tissue everywhere. So that also has a lot to do with boundaries. So questions, spiritual, emotional questions I would ask is who's violated your boundaries? When we have sexual trauma, we are more prone to having these kinds of inflammatory illnesses of the pelvic bowl. Yeah, that's a big one. I would highly recommend that you go to an alternative medicine practitioner of your choosing and invest in your healing that way. When I have seen folks with endometriosis, it is very deeply associated to sexual trauma and the pain that is carried in the womb because of it. So that's what I have to offer in that. As far as birth control goes and IUDs, I personally haven't seen anything great come of them, regardless of not getting pregnant. I've heard from different healer folks that birth control, what it actually does is it tricks your body into thinking you're in menopause. So that's like going through menopause when you're a teenager. There is a documentary coming out that actually Panketsani was interviewed for. It's called The Business of Birth Control. It's by Ricky Lake. She also did The Business of Being Born. So I would check into that about your birth control potentials. But I would highly recommend that you go to a hands-on healer who can also hold space for your grief.
What about sex on a period?
That's also a no. We don't have sex while I'm on my period. Once again, because the flow is supposed to be outward. I also heard from a spiritual practitioner, which hit mad home for me, that when we're on our moon, we're more open. And so having sex while you're on your period, that partner, it's like their DNA becomes more deeply encoded in you and they have more spiritual pull over you. So I don't recommend sex on the period from a physiological perspective of you're supposed to be moving out and not in. I do, however, recommend orgasms for pain relief on the period that are non-penetrative, because we want the movement going out. But an orgasm is a really good opener to help go out.
Any other tips on healing intergenerational pain?
So when I recommend folks heal intergenerational anything or trauma in general, I have to hold space for the unseen in that equation. So what I say is go to a place. Nature is really helpful. I like raging rivers because they're loud and the movement is fast. And call upon your honorable ancestors, your unseen helpers, your angels, your saints, your guides, your animal allies, whoever is your people in those realms. Call upon them and ask them to help you release, and then begin a movement exercise. Now, I've done this, what I call rage dancing, where I'll just like ask spirit and then start moving my body. And it doesn't happen all the time. But altars, for instance, are portals. We have to create the portal for the unseen to see us so that they can help us doing the action that we're doing. So when you open the portal, then you do the action and meet it where it happens. And what I mean by that is whatever comes through your body, whether it's screaming or just dancing, or allow that to happen and let the healing happen in the unseen realms. There might be times when you do that you'll like get this, something takes over and all of a sudden you're like on the ground, like writhing and screaming and releasing, but you're trusting that spirit is helping you get that out. You want to do it in a way that is not harmful to yourself and others. Set yourself a safe place, as in maybe it's your room, or maybe even if you do go by the river, you ask for the safety and protection of your allies, etc. that you can continually go back to, because it's going to be a cumulative effect of continual connecting to your healing in the spiritual realm. And your unseen helpers are very important in that. I also highly recommend that you find a practitioner to help you, like myself or Panketsani or somebody else who like you, or an acupuncturist or an Ayurvedic practitioner, regardless of whether or not they're working specifically in the spirit realm, because our minds, bodies, emotions, and spirits are also connected. Wherever you begin your healing, your body as the messenger and all the things you can't see are going to attune to the healing. So say, for instance, you go get an acupuncture treatment and they didn't tell you anything about your ancestors, but then later on you come home and you have this memory or you have this dream, and then you bawl for 2 hours and then you like see the Virgen. I don't know, right? Like your body will find your healing in the correct order it's supposed to find its healing when you ask for it. So you might be taking a walk and you'll see like a sign for Sobadora and you never saw it before. You see like Chinese medicine this way. Follow your healing. That's my answer.
What would you recommend to people who have very long cycles? This person says 37 to 50 days, not related to PCOS.
Wow, that is a long cycle. My cycle is actually always kind of long. One answer is that if your cycle is consistent, then it's not pathological. I do think 50 days is kind of long. So for you, I would ask, like, what is the hesitancy around your cycle? Like, what are the belief systems that are like, oh, maybe I don't want my cycle? What is your diet like? That might not be like moving. What is your movement like? I would find out about the other bleeders in your lineage and what their cycles were like. When you go see a Chinese medicine practitioner, there's a lot of questions like, what color is it? How fast does it come? How heavy is it? Does it have a smell? Are there this symptom, this symptom, this symptom? There's so many questions about symptomology. So it, like, without knowing so much more, I don't know. But I would highly recommend you start connecting to yourself, like writing it down, touching your body, asking about your lovers, asking your womb what's going on, so that you can start understanding your own patterning and then putting the pieces together yourself on what's best for you and your healing. But it's look at all of them: the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. What's my ancestral stuff? What is my diet like? What is my movement like? What are my belief systems? What emotions am I not expressing? Mm-hmm.
Final question. They want to know about if you know anything about Mayan abdominal massage, because they were recommended it because they have a tilted uterus or womb.
Okay, so first things first, Rosie R. Vigo is not looked gently upon in indigenous communities because she is a white woman who went and copywrote indigenous medicine for herself and now has an empire on it and teaches Mayan abdominal massage, where really it's one teacher's version of abdominal massage. And in what I know of her, she doesn't give back the way one should, but you can't go around copywriting ancestral medicine. That's bullshit. So there's that. That doesn't mean that people who practice Mayan abdominal massage are necessarily no good at what they do. There's a lot there. Now, I only know of personally 2 actual legit sobadoras. One of them is Panketsani and the other one is Maite the womb doula. And I know that they've done different classes in different places to help teach other folks. It's very effective when done by a practitioner who knows what they're doing. A matriz caída is very common. And according to Maestra Panketsani, a matriz caída can be caída or fallen for many, many different reasons. And all of our symptomologies are related to matriz caída, whether it's sideways or this way or tilted back or tilted forward. Every single symptom is related. Like the reason is matriz caída. So you need to get it put back. And there are only a few people who I know can do that. There's also, I have a mentor who they call it visceral manipulation, where he can also move organs. In my experience, even though I know I did have a matriz caída after my son was born, and probably before, actually I had it for a long time. And spiritually, it was from watching violence against women when I was a kid in my own home. My matriz was like backing away, like, nah, no, thank you, no man for me. And that was fixed by a sobada. But as far as like having menstrual pain, Chinese medicine fixed all my menstrual pain from a dietary and flow perspective, as well as like an emotional perspective. So even though my matriz was caída, I didn't have the same symptomology as other people who might suffer from that. So I would just find a healer that is a yes for you, and do things consistently. Okay, diet really matters. How you walk, how you do things with your body really matters. How you're emotionally taken care of in your sexual relationships really matters. Yeah, there's an answer for that.
Okay, would you respond to these two last ones really fast?
Yeah, I don't know how fast I can go.
As quick as you can, because I also know they're nuanced. We've got one person asking about an egg donation and there being some maybe complications or pain after egg donations and suggested healings around that. But I know that's pretty nuanced. That's like you'd want to sit down with them kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I personally, I don't know anything about that because I don't fuck with medical industrial complex. So there's my first thought on that. Especially when it comes to like extractions of eggs for like in vitro kinds of things. Like there's so much that doesn't sit right with that with me. From a healing perspective, I would ask your body what it needs to heal. To me, that's an invasive procedure. So you might have frialdad, or you might have caught cold in the matriz, because if they're inserting cold metal objects into you, that's cold in the matriz. I would do warming teas and lots of careful love. I would do some cord cuttings from the eggs that you release, so there's not an energetic pool there. That's intense. That's a lot. You're welcome to make an appointment with me and we could talk more about that. But my first thoughts are like feelings of invasiveness of boundaries and of extraction.
And then lightheadedness when bleeding.
That's a blood deficiency thing. You need to gear up on those blood nutritive foods: beets, kale, greens, dandelion, nettle tea, red raspberry leaf tea, black beans, black rice, sweet potatoes, heavy, dense, nutritive offerings for your blood body. You can look that up. I highly recommend to everybody Paul Pitchford's Healing with Whole Foods. It's a Chinese medicine book on nutrition. That book has saved my existence for a really long time. Love it. Yeah, lightheadedness when bleeding is definitely about you not having enough blood or strong enough blood to sustain the bleeding. And since saying that, excess bleeding, I had a patient who had been bleeding for like 2 months straight. And when we did a session, spirit came through, and like I never know what I'm going to do in sessions because I work on priority, right? According to the body talk system, you don't just have a thing that you do for people that have a symptom. You tune in and see like what is going on. And what this person needed was to receive from the earth archetype. And we did this guided meditation that came through of like literally her sitting and receiving from the earth and moving up. And there was a lot of other stuff that happened there too, but her bleeding immediately stopped after that guided meditation, after having been bled. And she was bleeding for over a month, and her experience around that was as by POC, this constant give, and never stopping to receive. There are other ways that we could describe excessive bleeding. Chinese medicine oftentimes has to do with spleen qi deficiency, or a deficiency of earth, as in you're offering too much and not holding. Okay. The monthly Moontime stewardship, Moontime membership.
My bad. I just put a reminder in the notes.
That's up in the notes. And Healing with Whole Foods is by Paul Pitchford, which is like pitchfork with a K. Highly recommend. All right. Any last minute questions?
Oh, you had one earlier that was, what are some herbs you recommend for building the blood?
Nettle, dandelion, yellow dock. Herbs recommended for building the blood. Nettle, dandelion, yellow dock, berries. Right now, y'all, I have a jar full of tequilita with cherries, canelita, cinnamon, hawthorn berry, wang chi, and dongui, which are astragalus and angelica root, for building the chi, moving the blood, and building the blood. And I'm going to use that like for people before their moon time starts, to like get them ready for the movement and to help the blood flow, to encourage menstruation. So cherries are big, anything red, okay? And yes, herbs, but I cannot recommend highly enough y'all's food intake, okay? Food is the original medicine. Food is the first medicine. According to ancient Chinese medicine documents, before you treat with herbs, before you treat with acupuncture, you treat with food. If you use all your medicine and neglect diet, you're wasting your time. Okay, whenever somebody comes to me, unless there's like some crazy entity or some ancestral stuff that's like, me first, me first, me first. I'm like, what are y'all eating? Because our food is our first medicine. So all the nutritive stuff, back up off the sugar, the bread, the pastries, the milk, and get up on the black beans, the black rice, the camote, the beets, the greens, okay, and teas. Honestly, most teas are really rich in minerals. I really also like taking a drink of molasses, a teaspoon of molasses in the morning to help build your blood preliminarily. Like the lightheaded person, if you feel like you're pallid and you're tired and you just like, no energy, I would start taking a spoonful of molasses in the morning. And it's sugary, but because it has all that extra good stuff, the sugar doesn't act the same way in your body. Okay.
Final question.
Final.
Is having a tilted womb always a negative thing?
According to Maestra Panquetzani, sí. A tilted womb is not regular. Your womb should be centered in your belly right here. As I said, for myself, even though my womb was tilted all throughout my pregnancy and stuff, I haven't had menstrual pains or cramps or anything since Chinese medicine. And I didn't even realize that there was such a thing as a matriz caída until I took Panque's, or not, I wouldn't take her class until I like became her friend and she was talking to me about it. I was like, oh shit, cool, crazy, whoa. I bet everybody's matriz is caída. So pretty much everybody's matriz is caída. And I would say that y'all should take her matriz y concha class to learn more about that. But just because you have a matriz caída doesn't mean you can't heal and feel better from your symptoms. Yeah, that's what I say about that. You guys are so welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Somebody said something about canelita. Dad, you're saving the things, right?
Of course.
Ooh, this person says drinking the caldo from frijoles. Such good medicine. The water that comes after cooking your beans, drink that. Beans are great medicine, gentle medicine, full of minerals. Legumes are awesome. Seaweed is great. After I gave birth, I couldn't get enough seaweed because seaweed is so rich in iron and all kinds of minerals that we need after we lose a lot of blood. I probably ate like 4 packs of seaweed a day for like 6 months postpartum or longer. It was a lot.
That might not even be hyperbole. That might be under.
What?
Yeah.
You guys are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I love serving you in this way. Thank you for coming. If you feel called, please support this medicine by joining my club, joining my Patreon, by joining my class, by signing up for all my stuff, by sharing my stuff, by giving me besos from afar. I love you, love, love. And I have more cool announcements coming up. So stay tuned. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your bodies. Thank you for your healing. I honor you. I appreciate you. And I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful evening, and many, many free flowing blessings to become. Don't forget to touch yourself nice and be nice to you. Okay. Okay. Love you too.
Wait on ang sin, wait on ang sin.